Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. I am still T Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is still your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. My email is tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today we're discussing the 2012 remodeling of the Lange Sohne Datograph, the watch that debuted like a supernova at Basel in 1999. Here grows up with a larger case, more power reserve, and a dial side power reserve indicator. This example, in rose gold, is 41 millimeters in diameter, 13.5 millimeters thick, 48 millimeters from lug to lug, and the spacing between the lugs is 20 millimeters. It's not an oversized watch. It's about a standard size for modern dress chronograph. It has an impressive presence without being overbearing. The key is that the case back, which accounts for a large amount of the thickness, it's set back so far that when strapped to the wrist, the watch actually hunkers down and looks a lot thinner than it is. It also fits more easily underneath the dress cuff. You can see that the lugs are not over the edge of my wrist, and that over-the-top shot always exaggerates the width of the watch. My wrist, once again, is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can really see in this down the barrel angle that I've got a little bit of room to spare. I could probably wear this watch on a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference, and with a relatively thin profile and a domed bezel, it will slide underneath the cuff. The strap is high grade. You can see large rectangular scale alligator leather. Large symmetrical rectangular scale is always the most expensive cut of the animal, and it is a sign of a premium strap. Now you can see a semi-gloss finish. We have medium brown, maybe on the dark side of medium brown, a monotone stitch, and then at the edge, a narrow folded edge. On the bottom, you can see there is calf skin. This is a brand new Lange factory strap, no crimping, no gouging. The watch comes with a full deploying clasp, which still feels like a luxury, as historically, even a lot of Lange complications have not always included a folding clasp. It adds value, it adds weight, and most importantly, it helps to protect against accidentally dropping your watch. It's a snapshot friction fit and gives you extra security when donning or removing your watch at bedside. As with all Lange watches, or just about all Lange watches, the lugs are stepped out from the case band, so they're very distinct sculpturally. This is not a blended lug Calatrava, by no means. Although the case is relatively sheer in profile, there's a longitudinal band of satin finish to visually break up the material. Then we have a vertical step and then a domed terminal curve of the bezel. We have pushers that allow us to use the various functions of the watch, one of which is the flyback action of the chronograph, reset and restart without first stopping. But we also have the ability to start, stop, and reset if we want to do it the old-fashioned way. We will make sure we're not in the date change danger zone here. And then you can see we have a pusher adjuster that allows us to adjust the panorama datum, which, fun fact, was originally a JLC patent. They were part of the same company, German-owned back in the early 90s, and JLC was directed to give the patent for the double-digit date to Lange. JLC went back and created its own with a new patent, but this was JLC's original modern-day double-digit date patent. And the action of the date change is actually just as crisp as the column wheel action of the chronograph, so your cup runneth over with this watch. Now, surprisingly, for a dress watch, it's got a couple of sporty features, such as the flyback operation, which is great for timing events that occur in rapid succession. It has a tachymeter on the dial that can be used for gauging the speed of a race car, and there is a fair amount of luminescence, which isn't universal on dress watches. The watch features a dial that includes now a power reserve indicator at the bottom. You can see the centers of the registers are dropped a little below the cannon pinion or the nexus of the hands. We have stick style indices because technically the datograph is part of the Saxonia family, where you expect to see stick indices for the hours. The dial is made of sterling silver, which includes the step outboard as well as the dial base. That is AG 925, so the dial of this watch is almost like a silver dollar coin, and it adds weight, value, and technical interest to the timepiece. Of course, you do have the stop seconds function when you need it, and then this little power reserve indicator. The original datograph had a manual wind power reserve of 36 hours. On this watch, the newest version of caliber L951 gives us 60 hours of power reserve, plus we have a little indicator to keep track of it. Flip it all over, and here you can see the latest version of caliber 951. This is 9516. The way these references work with Lange is L means Lange, 95 means that's the year they started work on the movement, 1 means it was the first movement they started that year, and 6 means it's the 6th revision of this movement since it debuted. The watch features a big slow beat rate, so 18,000 vibrations per hour. You can see the most recent versions of the movement feature a free-sprung balance with all the timing adjustments performed by changing the polar moment or the turning force of the balance via these eccentric masses on the rim. It's both very shock resistant and allows for precise adjustment. You can see that here the watch has been adjusted in 5 positions, which is the high horology and chronometer standard. We also have an overcoil hairspring, which is not a universal feature on Lange watches. It's included on the best Lange watches, as an overcoil has a more centered mass than a flat hairspring, thus allowing the watch to keep better time in every position relative to gravity. You can see we have a column wheel, steel components for the clutch, levers, horns, and recentering hammers of the chronograph, and most impressively, possibly the single most impressive part of the whole watch from a finishing standpoint, is that this chronograph clutch in steel has both sharp outward points where bevels converge at a point, and then also sharp inward creases where bevels converge in a sharp crease. That's difficult to do on large exposed structures, much less small confined ones like this clutch, much less on stainless steel, which is an unyielding material. Or pardon me, this is conventional steel, which is even more unyielding than stainless. Now we have a lateral clutch system at center, as well as the column wheel for cycling the function. The column wheel is a little piece of heaven to operate, and then we have an instantaneous minute jumper. You can see all of this pivoting away on 46 joules, water resistant down to 30 meters. And then we'll take a look at some of the finish. I talked about the steel components of the chronograph. You can see they're all silver, satinated on their top and then mirror beveled on their side. You can see we have both black polished, that is mirror polished screws, as well as kiln fired blue oxidized screws. We have bridges and plates in German silver and nickel copper zinc alloy, with the copper giving it that golden hue. We have a freehand engraved balance cock, a standalone work of art that's become a defining trait of modern German luxury watches. Lange started that in the modern era back in the 90s. You can see we have engine turning on the base plate. We have a bridge underneath the balance that actually features solarization and beveling, which is impressive since that bridge is out of the line of sight and generally hidden. We also have high quality beveling on the edge of the German silver bridges, not just on the steel parts of the chronograph. And then we have golden chaton cups for some of the pivot jewels, harking back to the era when you would first place a jewel in a precision cup and then press the jewel into the bridge to be fixed by screws, back before the precision equipment to directly set jewels existed. This is how it was done. And we've got a black polished cap to the escape wheel right there. And again, 18,000 vibrations per hour, a nice slow beating traditional chronograph. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am T Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.